Check. Quick sound check. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? Good evening, good night, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Let's get a sound check before we continue. Welcome everyone to Slow Markets. I am Coach Jay, filling in for Coach Dakota. Just for one more night, Dakota should be back on tomorrow. But welcome to Slow Markets, everyone. We are going to run this Slow Markets just like Dakota does. Dakota is still enjoying some time off, but like I said, he will be back tomorrow. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach for a little over a year. I've been trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5. Uh, Before we get into it, I am going to share as soon as I can find the link to the Top Step risk disclosure. Anything we talk about today is for educational purposes only and should not be considered a suggestion to take a trade. We will be talking about live markets. So if you decide to click the button, do so on your own merits and not based on anyone else's information. There is considerable risk with trading futures. And can you tell that I've been studying the Series 3 book all weekend? That's how my weekend has gone. Hopefully, everybody has had a good weekend. But we will get into these markets uh, right away. I'm looking at the Nikkei. Do have this pulled up. Japanese markets. I did see some news for the news out in Japan. Looking at the Trader Hub here, uh, Japan 10-year yield climbs to 9%, reaching 1 month peak. So we are seeing a reflection of that in the Nikkei. I'm personally not going to trade the Nikkei, especially not in this account. It is a 150K Express account, but in a little bit of a drawdown, and the Nikkei is definitely not the market that I want to be trading with that account. The way I'm looking at this, we just did reject at 40,000, and you guys know that I look at the 30-minute opening range from when Globex starts. Shout out to Nick for a tick for a great market prep. If you haven't watched that, I would suggest to watch it at some point. Nick does a great job um, of preparing us for the week. Really, he didn't talk about the Nikkei obviously, but he talked about other equity markets. But right now, what I'm seeing is that 30-minute opening range for the Nikkei. We broke that range to the downside with volume leaving as well. This red line is our anchored VWAP from the start of the session. And we're leaving, which is telling us not just price, but sellers are pushing this market lower. And let's see if we're seeing the same thing in the other equity markets. We know last week we did have a pretty volatile start to the week where we had this sell-off, then a consolidation and pretty much a full retracement of that sell-off move from the escalations in the Middle East. So right now, if I'm looking at the Nikkei, I mean, sorry, the Nasdaq, and if I trade the Nasdaq, it is going to be on micros. But I'll just do the charting here. I'm looking at the same 30-minute opening range. The low of that range is 20,207. High of the range 20,262. So far, if I'm looking at this, not much for me to do as far as volume leaving the range. I'm considering this if I'm going to trade it to be a range bound market and maybe buying the lows here. But we know during this time we're going to go for about an hour, hour and a half. Volatility can pick up, and if it does pick up and present a trade opportunity, we'll go ahead and take it from there. Uh, how am I doing, Nathan? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Uh, got through studying for the Series 3. My exam is this week. I'm not going to say what day, but it is this week. But I'm doing well. Doing well. Feel prepared. Feel pretty rested. Got to get out and take a break from studying and play some ball this morning. Uh, so I'm doing good. Hopefully you are as well. Uh, and Anti wants to know how I lost 3K on my XFA. Being over leveraged, trading a little too aggressively. Was up on the account and just a little too aggressive. So just going to scale it back. Right. So looking at the NASDAQ, I've been working with Coach Paul for over a year. If you guys don't know how Coach Paul analyzes the markets, he does look at moving averages. I've learned these moving averages from him. The white line here is the 200 moving average. I'm looking at a 30-minute chart. Yellow is the 20 and the purple line is the 50. And last week we had the 20 cross above the 50. Pretty steep angles on these moving averages. I wouldn't be surprised at somewhat of a pullback towards the 20 or somewhere in between the 20 and the 50, around 20,100 to 20,130, and then looking for a potential opportunity to buy the NASDAQ here. I do see the equity markets continuing to push up above this 200 moving average. But trade location is important, right? Trade location is important. It's not just a blind buy, especially here where we could have, this could very well be a double top, triple top, really, if you consider where we sold off last week and the market sell off from here. So if something sets up, I will take it, but I'm going to be patient for now. So if you guys do have questions, please send them in. If you see a market that's moving, let me know that as well, uh, and we can scan and go over there. Unreal with Talal, I want to know, what do you think about looking at blue chip stocks like Nvidia and Microsoft while trading the ES? Well, we know that the Mag 7 are the heavily weighted in the Nasdaq and the ES, the Nasdaq especially. I think the last time I checked, Nvidia was I think it was number one, if not number two, and like 10% of the Nasdaq or something like that. So it's important, right? The way Nvidia goes, the Nasdaq is going to follow, and most tech companies are probably going to follow as well. I personally don't do it often, but I'll pay attention when someone mentions it, right? If I'm trading during fast markets and I'm paying attention to the Nasdaq, and I hear someone say, "Hey, Nvidia's up 6%," I probably don't want to be shorting the Nasdaq, right? Or at least not shorting it for a long time, because the Nasdaq is going to follow uh, what Nvidia does. Are you saying the Nikkei correlates with the other equities? I don't pay attention to that correlation too much, but I have seen it. I have seen it where if the Nikkei is up on the day, so is the Nasdaq ES. I don't pay attention to that correlation. I like to trade those markets separately if I'm going to. The correlation I'll pay attention to is Nasdaq ES, and then that kind of disassociation where if the Nasdaq and the ES aren't moving, then we might be getting some moves in the Russell and the Dow. Right, but good questions. See what happens here. We may not get some move. And this 200 right now looks like it's acting as somewhat of a support. Again, this 20 moving average is down at 20,170. I'm not seeing a trade that I would want to take right here, right now, but something may set up. If I zoom out, let's go to a daily chart. Nasdaq has some catching up to do to the ES. Right now, we are for a little under 5% from the all-time high in the Nasdaq, so it does have some playing catch up. I believe the ES is less than a percentage away from that all-time high. We made new highs in the ES, I believe, 2 weeks ago. So the Nasdaq has some catching up to do. On the daily, this 20 moving average we see acting as a support as well. It's kind of just, to me, it looks like it wants to break out. Maybe it needs a catalyst. I know we have news later on in the week, CPI and PPI, and those can be big market movers, but those are not until Wednesday and Thursday. So going into this session, I know Nick was talking about it as well, going into today and Tuesday, we might see some consolidation preparing for these numbers, right? I don't know how many directional moves we're going to see. That doesn't mean that there's not opportunity, right? Especially in the NASDAQ. A consolidated day in the NASDAQ can be a 250 point range day. So it still presents opportunities, but I want to frame my trades around that market personality, right? I'm not going to be looking for a 200-point trend to in one direction if I'm expecting a consolidated day. Normally, do you exit the market by bid and ask or market order? Uh, if I'm actively trading, it's usually just a market order. It's usually like a flat. I usually just click flat and all to get out of my position. Sometimes I will trade with a take profit if it's like a slow markets trade. But if I'm actively watching it, I'll just get out. Evan, I had you thinking you won VIP this weekend. If you hang out in the Coach J chat, it's like VIP light. Shout out to all the traders that are always in that chat. Really good trading community there. Kind of no nonsense, just talking about trades, talking about their ideas, and then going from there. So if you're not in VIP, I would suggest maybe joining those traders over there. Every new trading week, I wait for the first close of the first 4 hour candle before placing any trades. Do you do the same or just trade? I don't wait for the first 4 hours. I wait for the first 30 minutes and volume to do something in that out of that first 30-minute range. So we can do this really quick. We can do it on every market pretty much, especially because the NASDAQ is not doing too much. I do this for every market. Someone had asked me in a VIP call we had on Saturday uh, what my market prep looks like if I do prep on Sunday night. To me, I've simplified it to looking at this first 30-minute opening range, attaching VWAP to it, and that could frame my trades for the rest of the session, right? Even going into the New York session. So right now, if I was going to take an overnight trade, what this is saying is to fade the extremes of this range, buy the low, and try to, target either 50% or the other side of the range because volume is right in the middle of it. If this was trending lower and leaving this range, then I would be looking for a short. If it was trending up and leaving the range, then I would be looking for a long. How can I get the yellow and blue bar in the DOM? Just change the colors. Just click on the gear and change the colors. In order to see all the prices, you will need level 2 data. But if you already have that, just click on this gear, change the colors from there. All right. Let's see. Let's move over to the ES. Like I said, the ES is a lot closer to all-time highs. All-time highs in the ES we made 2 weeks ago, 58.30. Is that the exact high? 58.30, the high on the ES. So we are a lot closer to air horns here, right? We're only a 0.5% away. But I'm looking at the ES the same way right now for this session. We haven't left this range. Well, price has left the range, but I don't think volume has. Nope. So to me, not much to do here either. I would just be patient. I would just be patient here. So let's just scan. Let's just scan around. We haven't done crude oil, so we'll go to crude. We know crude has, you know, a lot of headline risk, a lot being paid attention to what's going on in the Middle East right now in crude oil, right? This spike that we have up here started from, war escalations. And since then, we've been trending to the upside, uh, trading, on Friday at that $75 level, major level in crude, but we can see on the 30-minute chart, we're above the 200 moving average. The 20 is above the 50, which is telling us pretty strong trend. But we did get this quick flush below the 50 moving average. So what I would be looking for is a potential reclaim of that moving average and continue to push to the upside. But we can see here as well, volume has not left this range, pretty much in the middle of it. We didn't test the extremes of the range, but kind of just bouncing around here. Again, for my trading, not too much of an opportunity here. What is your go-to time frame for the type of trading you do? Uh, my time frame, if you're talking about chart time frame, I use 30-minute charts and 3-minute charts. But if you're talking about time of day, it is uh, I'm talking Eastern times, 8 a.m. Eastern to 11:30, and then power hour, so the last hour of the day. And why those times specifically is because we see the most volume during those times, right? I'm a volume trader. I'm a momentum trader. I like trades to go and have the potential to move fairly quickly, especially for a day trade. If it's a swing trade, it's a different story. But for day trades, I want to trade during high volume times. So I don't take many slow markets trades. And if I do, I scale down significantly because I know it's going to need, the trade's going to need more time to play out. And I'm just not as comfortable with taking these trades as I am with, trades during the New York session. Gabe, what's going on? Antonio says, would you, if you pass your series 3, can I borrow your book so I can study? Yeah, yeah. Yep, you can. Absolutely. You're the first person to ask. So send me a message in Discord and we'll figure out how to get it to you. We got a question from Tekka. How do you add the anchored VWAP tool to your dashboard? Uh, it's over here on the left side. you have forecasting and measurement tools in the drawing tool. So 5 icons down. If you click on the arrow there, about halfway down that menu, you have anchored VWAP. Put a star next to it if you're going to use it often. It adds it to your favorites. And then I have this little favorites uh, panel here where I can just go up here and click it. Right. Let's see. So I'm not seeing too much in crude oil either yet, and gold potentially. Gold might look like the best setup that I see right now, where again, volume not leaving the range yet, but and I don't want to be short gold very long because of this consolidation that we're having. Right, gold for the entire year has been in this uptrend. Right, it does this thing where it makes a new all-time high, consolidates a little bit. I'm looking at a daily chart right now. It makes a new all-time high, consolidates, then makes a new all-time high, pulls back, consolidates, and that's what it looks like it's doing right now. This 20 moving average on the daily is still in a very strong uptrend. So I don't want to be short gold for more than anything but a scalp right now. Is my voice cutting in and out to anyone else? Do I sound all right now? Check, check. But yeah, I don't want to be short gold for very long. So if I do get short here, I'm looking at the lows of this range that we're making on a 30-minute, somewhere down near 2650. Really, I would like to be a buyer down here at 2650. The only reason I would be taking a short is because we're kind of near the highs, well, really in the middle of this range right now. So a short here down to 2667, from 2667 down somewhere to 2650 is where I'd probably look to take profits. We did have on Friday, we did have NFP news, and during that news, there was a big seller down here at this 2650 area. So I would not be surprised at the market, going back and trading down towards 2650. But we'll see. We know in about 13 minutes, we do usually see some volatility in gold. We see the volatility pick up a little bit. So if it does, this may be presenting an opportunity as well. So just keeping notes on that. Check micro Bitcoin, and I have the yen as well. Um, and if you guys don't know, I will scan a bunch of different markets for opportunities. I'm mostly trading the equities or crude oil. But if something else presents an opportunity, I will definitely take it. If I'm looking at the yen right now, uh, the yen looks like so. If we look at the yen, and I've started looking at the yen because I work a lot with Coach Paul. Uh, the yen has been a market that's under very heavy sell pressure for you know 3 or 4 years now, right? So we had what looked like this short covering rally. We know we had the Bank of Japan news in July, and since then the yen has been on an uptrend. But we're starting to turn, right, where we kind of made this double top. We are looking like we're turning around again. So if I'm trading the yen on a swing trade or a longer time frame trade, I'm looking to the downside. But this selling here definitely caused a pretty big imbalance. So I would not be surprised at a retracement back up to this 50 moving average here on the 30-minute chart. We can see the yen leaving that initial 30-minute opening range. Volume looks like it wants to leave as well. So if I could get a buy somewhere near the highs of this range and risk the lows, and this is where uh, so this is how I use these combines now since they're ineligible. I know there is the long short tool in on TradingView charts. I haven't figured out a great way to use it, to be honest. I get confused when I use it, so I just go to either a practice account. I'm gonna put a buy for one in, and then just check what that risk is. Okay, so if I was to get long the yen at the high of this range, I could be risking about 250 on that, and then my target would be somewhere around 50% of this here, 50% of this sell off here. But with the yen, you got to be very careful with this market where headlines can cause a candle like this, and you know blow you out of a position really quick. So uh, when I trade the yen, if I am trading the yen, I do want to pay attention to see if there's any news in Japan coming out, because I definitely do not want to have a position on if that's the case. Because I've seen what these candles look like. We've seen what the Bank of Japan intervention candles look like, where they say they're going to throw $1 billion at their currency, and it makes an extreme move. So do want to be conscious of that. From a technical perspective, I like what this risk looks like, because we are reclaiming this 20 moving average, and a potential move back up to the 50 moving average is possible. Uh, so I think I may put this trade on. I'm just going to watch this on a side screen. But if we get a pullback towards this range or somewhere near 50% of it, I may put this trade on and then just risk the other side. When do you start trading, and how did you get into trading? I started trading 12 years ago, and I got into it just, speaking to my parents about where they were putting their money, and them just buying and holding Apple stock, and you know graduating college and being like, hey, what else can I do with this money that I'm making, and then putting it into the markets first, just buy and hold stuff, and then figuring out trading from there. And then I took classes and all this stuff, and of course this yen trade is looking pretty good right now. 12 years ago, I'm definitely not 19. If I take off this hat, you see a couple grays. Right, so yeah, the yen looks like a decent opportunity as well. I know we've gone over a couple of different markets, and is it 9 o'clock here yet? Not yet. So I'll just go back over, see if the Nasdaq's doing anything. Nothing different yet, right? This volume isn't leaving the range yet and doesn't look like it wants to. So I'm gonna ignore that for now. Gold, same story. Amando says, I have loved trading the currencies as of late. They've been presenting some really good opportunities. Some really good opportunities. I've been looking at the euro. The yen has been presenting good opportunities. Um, so definitely opportunity in other places. Coach Paul and I say that all the time during At the Buzzer, but I also know that scanning 30 different markets for opportunities is its own thing, right? So it's its own full-time job to scan. So I think it's important to know a technical setup that you're looking for. You can see, right, I pulled up this chart. I'm not looking at prices. This is the chart for nat gas. I'm not looking at prices. I'm looking at a technical setup. 30-minute opening range. Where's volume? I'm not even going to look at this chart, right? This is not presenting a decent enough opportunity, at least for a slow market trade for me, where I'm going to take it. So I'm just going to move on, and maybe later in the day, later in the session, it will present an opportunity. Uh, can you explain the concept of volume leaving the range? Sure. So this range was established right on the first 30 minutes of the market open, right? And this is nat gas. I'm not even going to quote prices because all we need to know is the range. Then I'm attaching a VWAP to the start of that range and looking for this VWAP to leave the range in either direction, right? And that's going to give me a directional idea for where the market is going. If this VWAP stays at 50% of this range right here, and it's pretty much a flat line, what this is telling me is while the market is trading and price is moving around, volume hasn't moved in either direction, right? So there's not aggressive buyers or sellers. Price is just kind of floating around, maybe being moved around by, smaller market participants. And let's go back to the yen, for example. And we can see here the yen. Now I'm gonna make it a habit of taking really nice trades on slow markets in uh, an ineligible account, but that's okay, right? Hopefully, we're understanding the process behind this trade. But if we look at the yen, it looks a little different, right? Where we have this range, this purple box, and this VWAP looks like it wants to leave the range. So I am absolutely preempting this trade right now, where from my playbook, it says let volume leave the range, right? So this VWAP, if this is an A plus trade, this VWAP has to leave the range, and then I have to be patient to let it come back and give me a good price. So I definitely preempted this trade. So while I'm in it and it's working out, I would not be surprised at a pullback to this range because volume hasn't left yet. Uh, You're very analytical. What's your background? I My degree is in political science. I worked professionally in IT field, um, and been trading for 12 years. And I'm also a coach, right? I'm also a coach, so I coach basketball for 12 years as well. Uh, and I think that's where the analytics comes from, right? So me kind of being a coach and preparing practices and things like that. I watch a lot of game film. I watched a lot of game film. I was a high school varsity basketball coach for 3 years, and it was that, right? It was preparing my first year being a head coach. I was actually taking over for a guy I assisted for a year. Um, and it was my first time being a high school head coach. So I watched game film of every team that we were going to play before the season even started, and I knew what kids we were going to have on the team. So I was drawing up a playbook in the summer to try to prepare for it. So uh, I think that analytical side of me just comes from wanting to be prepared and going from there. Chillax says, "How old am I? I'm 30 until I'm 40." Nasdaq is moving. Who Nasdaq is doing exactly what we kind of expected it to do, right? VWAP is in the middle of this range. We talked about the low of that range holding and trading back into the middle of it. So I think that's how you would have to trade it, like a range bound market until it proves something different. But that's exactly what's happening right now. Check out Bitcoin. My bad. Let's see. Oh wow, there we go. So here's what's moving. 30-minute opening range. H- Here's volume leaving the range. I don't even need to know what this is going to look like. This VWAP is probably going to be somewhere up here. Right? So we see the difference here. This is what I'm looking for. So VWAP left this range pretty early. This is a trade I want to take because it's telling me that somebody is pushing this market. Right now, what I would do is go down to a shorter time frame chart because I know that the market's moving to the upside. Right now, I'm going to a shorter time frame chart and I'm looking for a potential pullback to get into this trend. So thank you for the shout out for Bitcoin because we did find something that's moving, rejecting at this 64,000 right now. So I wouldn't be surprised at a little bit of a pullback. And then let's go to a daily chart to see where there's some potential room up. So first area I would be looking is at 65,000, right? Just going off of whole numbers, 65,000 and a second. Bitcoin right now is up 2% uh, on the session. And we have seen huge moves out of Bitcoin futures, right? We've come to the end of the day and seen 5% moves. So there is more potential to the upside here. So if I'm looking to get into this trend, I don't want to buy the highs, right? Because I'm buying late here. So I'm looking at potential areas to try to get in now. I'm on a 3-minute chart. I would love a pullback to 63,590. Right? Just kind of 50% of this range. And why am I looking for so much of a pullback is because although price is running, this volume hasn't caught up with it. So I would not be surprised at a pullback to at least this volume. Um, or by the time we get the pullback, this VWAP should be somewhere around 50%. And then I like those buys, and I would probably risk the low of this range here. Alonzo says, on the NASDAQ, did I do the anchor VWAP on the 30-minute? Yep. And so let me go back to the NASDAQ for a second. If I just use the normal VWAP indicator, right, it's going to give me the same line, right? I could take this drawing off and it's giving me the same line. But the reason I do anchors is because I'm going to anchor to multiple points throughout the session, right? So instead of having this static line on there, I want to know exactly where I put those anchors, right? So the first one is going to be off of that opening candle, and then if I see a high volume event, then I'm going to anchor another one there. If we, have a rally and then a little bit of a sell off, I'm going to anchor a VWAP to the high. right? But yeah, whoever called out Bitcoin, hopefully you're in that trade. And I see Brankin says that Bitcoin candle is my first futures trade on Topstep. That's a great way to start. Great way to start. And I love that it's your first futures trade with Topstep and it's not in one of the major four that we trade. Again, because there's opportunities in other places. And if we're looking at Bitcoin, this is, you know, the best trade that I see right now. Best moving market, I'll say. So keep your questions coming in, guys. If there's other markets that we want to talk about, do let me know. Missed the limit by 10 points. And micro Bitcoin is a great market to trade. I don't want to be wrong here. So again, this is just a test combine. So it's 50 cents a tick. 50 cents a tick on a one lot. It's a micro, really good market where if I did buy here and risk the lows of this range, this is only $93 worth of risk, right? So if you're trading in a 50K account and you're looking for somewhere that is a little bit friendlier to the drawdown in that account, micro Bitcoin is a great place to start. Great place to start. Let's look at that yen trade. What I'm looking for in the yen now, I see the position is up. I'm looking for VWAP to kind of catch up here. What about crude and gold? So we went over crude and gold. They're not doing much, right? We have this 30-minute range, and crude is literally just sitting in the middle of the range. Um, is it presenting a potential trade later on? Maybe, right? Maybe a pull up to this. Give me 1 second. Go to the 30-minute chart. Maybe a pull up to the highs of this range at 74.50. But right now in crude, I don't have a great read where it just doesn't look like much is happening, right? So if I'm looking to take a trade during this session where the markets are actively moving, I'm going to try to find one that has left this range. And for me personally, even on a slow markets trade, I'm not going to take a trade until, again, that VWAP leaves the range, right? If you guys had done slow markets last Thursday and we found a really nice trade on the NASDAQ, about an hour into the session, VWAP left the range. We took the trade. We could have left that trade on all day and it would have been a 300-point trade. Um, so until the market tells me that because I don't want to, I could have a level, right? I could say I want to short at 75. If the market decides that, if a headline comes out and the market decides that it wants to run through 75 and run to 80, then my trade was based on what I wanted to see out of the market and not what the market is telling me. Right now, this market is telling me that it loves these prices and it's not going to move until something changes. Coach, what strategy do you use? It's kind of a combination of strategies, but all of my trading is volume based. So you'll hear me talk a lot about VWAP. You'll hear me talk a lot about orders on the depth of market. You'll hear me talk about seeing fills on time and sales. I try to identify with using volume what the market is saying, right? And try to leave my opinion out of it. Dakota and I were talking on Friday, and he was like, "Hey Jay, I really like trading with you because you never really have a bias about where the market's going to go." And the reason that is because I've had a bias before. If I do have a bias, it's a short bias. I don't know why, but I see the market's better to the short side. But that's not always a great thing, right? Where uh, if especially if I'm trading equity markets that are, kind of just designed to go up, if I have a short bias, it's not going to lend well for very long. So I need to pay attention to what the market is saying and then try to get in flow with the market. And if my bias is against what the market is saying, then I have to frame my trades correctly, right? Where if the market is rallying up and I'm still finding places to sell it, I need to know that I'm counter trend and have reasonable profit targets for my trades, right? I can't just say, "Oh, I have this short bias, so the Nasdaq should drop 200 points." I could say that, but the market might not agree, and my account might not agree either. When you take the trade, when the VWAP leaves the range, do you take it right away or do you wait for a pullback? So ideally, Moises, if I can get a pullback, I'm going to look for a pullback. Sometimes you don't get one, right? Sometimes you don't get one, and that just you're increasing the risk on the trade a little bit. Ideally, I would like a pullback, right? So, what was the market? It was Bitcoin that just left the range, right? Bitcoin left the range so aggressively that it didn't give us a pullback. So what I'm looking for is a buy as close to this VWAP as possible, right? If this VWAP is leaving the range and it doesn't look as decisive, right, where it's kind of just like drifting higher. Actually, I'll show you a perfect example of that. The NASDAQ last week. This was last week, Thursday night. Thursday night, going into Friday. We had this 30-minute range here. It was a small range. We had VWAP leaving the range, and it wasn't as decisive of a move, right? Where we could see the angle on this isn't as sharp as that Bitcoin angle is right now. That gave us a pullback, right? And where we bought was 19,980. We bought it on the way up, right? So I bought it when the market looked like this, where we left the range. I'm saying, hey, we're holding this VWAP. I want to be a buyer. But because we didn't have really a decisive move, we did get a pullback right back to that level. And if this VWAP angle is flat this way, I'm expecting somewhat of a pullback. So it depends. It depends. Bitcoin on the move now. So like I know I got in this Bitcoin, I really got in this Bitcoin trade because I wanted to confirm what the tick value was. This may continue to run. This now though is at a point where I cannot take this trade. The one thing I might do is so we have this range from where the market opened, but we can see the market really wasn't moving until this volume came in. So we could anchor a VWAP to this volume here and then look for a pullback here because this price action here changed the market, right? Before that, we were kind of just drifting higher, but somebody came in here, bought a whole lot, changed the volume. So from this point, I know there's a buyer here. So I may default to this one here, but I'm definitely not. If this was an XFA trade, I would not be taking this. I'm actually just going to take this off. Because this is not a trade I would take, not up here. And it could continue running, another 1,000 points. I'm okay not being in it because I know the potential of a pullback here, right? Just percentage wise, right? Someone says, can you demonstrate the anchor VWAP to the opening range? I've done it on every market that we've talked about so far, right? So 30-minute anchor VWAP and just click the first 30-minute candle. Where's Dakota? Dakota is on vacation right now. He'll be back tomorrow. He did not abandon you guys, I promise. Gold picking up. So you see gold, right? We anchored to that first 30 minutes. We started at 8:30. This VWAP is flat, decent range bound trade in gold. Not the biggest move, it's 3 points. But again, the market has not chosen a direction yet. Right. So again, just scanning around. I'm seeing other markets potentially moving. Uh, I don't recommend trading silver with, especially not the big contract with Topstep accounts. It's a huge contract. Silver can get very expensive. There are micro silver as well, but it's an expensive contract. And again, range bound market. Can we let's just take it. If I anchor VWAP here, if you think it's going to be a flat line or showing, if you think it's going to be a flat line, put a 1 in the chat. If you think it's going to be leaving this range, put a 2 in the chat, right? Based on what we've talked about so far. I'm not going to anchor it yet. Let's get some votes in the chat, right? Based on what we've talked about, is VWAP going to be a straight line in the middle of this flat, right? Remember, 2 is leaving the range, 1 is staying in the range. See some 2s. And we're anchoring from this candle that I have the cross hairs over. A lot of 1s, right? And you guys are right, right? Flat line. Flat line, what does that tell us? Range bound market, fade the extremes of the range until this changes. And it's as simple as that. So if I'm going to trade silver, if this line is flat and we come down to the lows of this range, I do still have to, risk management is still important. I can't just buy here and say, Jay said it's a range bound market, so it's going to go the other way. What I'm looking for is there's no continuation of volume through the lows of this range. So the likelihood uh, there's a high probability, and of course, nothing is 100%, but there's a high probability that we at least trade back to 50% of the range, if not to the other side. Now, it's up to me to determine where my trade location is. I don't want to be in the middle of the range with my trade location because it's 50-50 here. It can go either way. Um, but if we push down to these lows, now I need to determine where can I set my risk to say, and the risk is not based on how much I can lose in my account. It's based on if the market gets to this area, then this is the wrong idea. And where I would be looking is, look to the left, maybe under here, right? If the market gets under this candle here, then that trade idea is wrong. Or maybe if I want to accept a little bit more risk, then I'm going to go below these lows. Right. But yeah, you guys are right, right? A one. Honestly, we could go through a bunch of different markets and just do exactly that, right? Let's look at platinum. Platinum, 30-minute range, ones or twos. This one might be a little bit tricky. One, it's going to be a flat line. Two, it's going to be leaving the range. One, right? Brandon says two, ones, two-ish. I like that answer. I like two-ish because it might be somewhere up here. Let's see. Kind of flat, right? Somewhere it's above 50%. It's above 50%, but it's kind of flat. Do I trade NQ? Yeah, I do. I do. I will trade pretty much any market that presents an opportunity for me to trade. And again, I'm looking at all these markets the exact same way, right? I don't, and for me, it's a lot easier to not have an opinion about a market. Notice I haven't really quoted a price in a lot of these markets that we're trading. I do know platinum has been trading around this $1,000 level, which is major psych number, right? Anyone who's trading platinum knows when it trades at 1,000. So if we see the price action when we hit 1,000, we bounce right off of it, right? So there are not enough sellers in this market to want to trade below 1,000, and we pop back up. And I think just like the other metals, platinum is in an uptrend as well right now, but again, hasn't left the range yet. If I want to preempt this trade, I might take a long somewhere off this VWAP, but my risk can't be more than the lows of this range because this could turn around and just go the other way. Do I use TPO? I don't use TPO personally. I know Hogue does, and I understand a lot of the TPO, language. It's a great way to look at the markets. I have used it before, but I don't. Everything you see me doing right now is how I analyze pretty much every market. And then the only difference, the only thing I would add is the reading of the DOM and time and sales. Right, we haven't really done that yet, and I don't do it as much in slow markets time because I'm basing any slow markets trade I have off of this setup here. Opening range, view up, see what happens. Uh, any good books or other sources? Andrew, thank you for taking that one. Yeah, Brian Shannon's Anchor VWAP book is, if you're interested, that's the one you should read. And even if you're not interested in VWAP, I think it's a really good book on like the thoroughness of his trading plan, where he goes through kind of every example for how to trade based on that plan. And I think that's what we should all try to get for whatever strategy we use. Right. Let's see. Yen is pulling back a little bit. Let's see. So remember what we talked about with the yen, right? We were preempting this trade because VWAP didn't leave the range yet, and we're getting a little bit of a pullback here, right? So did we run out of buyers at this high? That's what I'm looking at right now. So I'm gonna stay in it, but I would not be surprised if while we're on this segment, we get a pullback to the high of this opening range. Again, VWAP is two-ish, right? Where it's trying to leave the range, but it hasn't yet. So because it hasn't, we have to assume that there's a potential for a pullback. I'm also going to put one more on this big candle here and look at where we're rejecting. So something happened here, right? This was, what was the news we had? It was NFP Friday. So this is VWAP anchored to NFP. To me, not a surprise that we're rejecting right below that. So we might just ping pong between these two until the market decides a direction. I'm the VWAP expert. I don't know about that. I got to give credit to Brian. He wrote the book. I used it prior to reading the book, but the book definitely, solidified some ideas and what I was looking at. I think I think what I do a little bit different than him is the volume reads, right? Specific volume by candle. But Brian Shannon is definitely the VWAP goat. Pullback in Bitcoin. Let's take a look. Right. And again, not surprised by this pullback in Bitcoin where we looked like we were going to push, but when we get above major levels, the air gets a little thin up there, right? Buyers are strong near this VWAP here. When we get away from it, it's the weak buyers. It's the trader that says, "Oh man, I missed the move, so I want to get in up here." Those people can't move a market, right? So if I buy up here and the market does not keep pushing, who's the first seller? It's going to be the same person that bought up here and they had a 20 tick stop and they're already getting out of their trade. Moonza, am I a full-time trader? I have multiple streams of income. I still work 9 to 5, coach with Topstep. I trade. When I first came on as a coach with Topstep, Hogue even reminded me. He's like, hey, he doesn't know very many traders who are solely traders, right? It is a very hard thing to uh, put all of your eggs in that basket, right? It's a lot of pressure. It's a high, and there are some. But again, I don't know many just sole traders without another form of income. How many combines do you typically work on at a time? What size are they? Do you copy trade any of them? Target position, size per trade, and what is a typical time frame to pass? It depends on how I trade them, Bradley. I will be honest. I do trade some combines aggressively. I don't suggest anyone do that. I personally don't like copy trading. Um, and I know that it's a big thing, right? Everyone wants to trade 10 accounts at the same time. Uh, what I would ask anybody who's copy trading, I've worked with a trader who, had just learned how to trade futures and was copy trading 5 accounts at the same time. Never made a dollar from trading futures, but was copying 5 accounts at the same time and struggling, right? Because the, in my opinion, the motivation to copy trade is to multiply the good results that you're seeing in your trading, right? That's what it should be. But if you haven't seen good results yet, what reason other than a monetary focus do you have to copy trade, right? So prove it to yourself first, and then when you are seeing good results, then decide to copy. But if you haven't yet, and I know the ease of entry to trading right now is a lot easier than it has been in the past, but I think it still needs to be done in a safe way where prove concepts to yourself. If you're in the first year of your trading, I don't think you should be copy trading, to be honest. And this is just my opinion, but if you're in the first year of trading, I don't think you need to be focused on money at all. Uh, you should be focused on how to have a repeatable process and then apply that process to your trading. What was that YouTube channel where you learned to read the tape? Ahead of the charts. Ahead of the charts is what it was called. But let's see. Uh, ES going right back up to that VWAP, right? This 5,800 area. Yeah, I don't want to trade this at all, right? There's other markets that are presenting to me way better opportunities. And again, I say way better for myself. If you're a range bound trader, this is exactly what you want to see, right? An extension from this VWAP. It kind of failed this consolidation, and you're buying conservative price target back to VWAP, ultimate price target the other side of the range if it can get there. And we anybody surprised that we talked about this, right? The Nasdaq holding the low of this range, VWAP not even moving, and a range bound trade. This is a 40-point trade here. This could have been, your one trade for the session. Don't even have to trade tomorrow, right? 40-point trade in the Nasdaq. That's $400. Is that right? That's not the right math. That's definitely not the right math, but it's 40 points. 40 points is 40 points based on range bound market. Could have taken Tinker in the trade. Very nice trade. 20 bucks, 800 bucks. And with micros, we could have taken this, right? Could have taken this. Market pushing into a major level, 20,200, not enough volume to push through that major, and pops right back up. Took it on practice, unfortunately. That's okay, right? Hopefully, it was a concept based trade, right? Where I took this yen trade in practice as well. I could be up 100 bucks right now, but we were going over a concept. I don't normally trade during this time unless it's a plus setup, and I haven't seen an A plus setup for my trading. Right, A plus for slow markets for me. I want to try to leave a trade on and wake up tomorrow to the same trade, and I haven't seen that yet. So um, it's okay to take it in an account that doesn't. That's practice. You look at the Dow, looks like a pullback, and if the resistance at volume point of control has been resistance since September 29th, could that turn into support? Roshan, I'm looking at the Dow now. If you can put in the chat where that volume point of control is, because I don't use volume profile. So if you could just give me what the price is. Uh, but yeah, looks like a lot of the other equity markets above the 200 moving average on the 30-minute, 42,691. 42,691. That's close enough right there. Yeah. So I think you're seeing exactly that, right? If we go back and look to the left, there is this looks like a higher time frame resistance. So yeah, if we start to see some volume above this and it start to act as a support, then there's potential to trade back up to 43,000. Looks very similar to the NASDAQ right now, where if I take a trade, it's a range bound trade for now. Now, if we look at this range at during the London session and VWAP has left the range to the upside and priced it as well, then it's a buy. Jay Smitty says probably harder during slow markets to move so far out of the range. I'm guessing. Yeah, I would think so, right? Think about slow markets time and how Dakota trades, right? Dakota a lot of the time isn't looking for, uh, you know, a huge directional move with the current prices that the market's trading unless he really likes a level, right? A lot of the times he's saying, if the market gets here, then I want to get in because he's trading it level to level and going in with the expectation that he might have to leave that trade on for a couple of hours, right? So during this time where it's lower volume, yeah, we would need something to happen to leave this range right now, right? Where so far the volume that we're trading hasn't pushed us out of these prices. And that's fine, right? Still presenting some really good opportunities. Again, we've found a 50-point move in the NASDAQ. It's just if your expectations are the market, trending up to 20,500, you might have to widen that time horizon and allow volume to come in to push it. There are definitely strong movements during slow markets, but you see them, right? You've seen those anytime, Dakota's doing slow markets and he's just like, oh man, this isn't slow markets, this is fast markets at night. Those are the moves that, uh, are really strong trends like Bitcoin, right? If the NASDAQ was doing this right now, we wouldn't be talking about anything else, but it's not. Um, and it may not for the entire session, right? Where we know we have news coming out later in the week, it may be consolidated for the whole week or first couple of days. Dakota can see the future. I think he can. Yeah, I think he can. He can see something. He can only see green. Is it valid to buy in 17 minutes ago? FX Freedom, what market are you talking about? Right. What time do we got? We got still about half an hour left. Creative Capitalist, if you're in the audience right now, if you can send me your trade report. Last week, I had promised that if you were here for the next session, that I was going to review that report. So if you can send me your trade report, and if anyone else wants to review trade reports, put them in Dakota's chat, and I'll try to grab a couple. I'm going to say it now. I'm not going to be able to get to every single one of them, but uh, we'll try to get to a few and do some reviews. All right. Any other markets that we see moving? Nat gas looks like it's continuing to sell, but yeah, not much to do here. Nikkei was moving early. So we see the Nikkei, right? The Nikkei opening range selling at this VWAP is presenting really good opportunities right now. And from here, if I was able to get a sell at VWAP, let's see, I'm actually going to, again, this is just the combine. So let's say I did get in a sell here. The risk for me on this trade here, especially because I'm away from volume, the risk would have to go back inside this range. Now, is that too much risk? $800, and this is why I don't trade the Nikkei, especially on smaller accounts. But what I would be looking for is, see where we're bouncing? An FP candle, VWAP attached to that. We'll kind of pinch between these two. This would have to be a conservative price target, right? Because this volume could just hold it up. We see since NFP printed, it's been acting as a support. That would be the conservative price target. The ultimate price target on this would be probably 50% of this range here. Right, and this is just going with volume left the range. It's acting as a resistance, but this is short time frame. This is a little bit longer time frame. Micro Nikkei is coming soon. So I saw that it exists. I got an email from AMP that said Nikkei futures are available. So maybe coming in Topstep soon. So is this a good setup? This to me is not a trade that I would take. I just kind of want to talk through it. Actually, no, I shouldn't even say that. This is a trade I would take. If we got to pull back up to VWAP, this is absolutely a trade I would take. Now, does $800 fit in the account that I'm trading? That's the question, right? So would I take this on a 50K XFA? Definitely not. To me, the Nikkei doesn't fit in that account size. 17 minutes ago, I said to move up started, and I trade by 4 ineligible combine. You said I don't buy right now. Uh, FX Freedom, if you said 17 minutes ago to buy it, hopefully you bought it, right? One thing I'm going to do is always trust my analysis. Um, so if I said don't buy, I'm not always going to be right about where the market goes. If I say don't buy, it means based on my trading plan, it's not a buy. But if it's based, if it's your trading plan, it shows you a buy, take it. Trade, manage the risk. How do I like this pullback in the NASDAQ? It's range bound market, right? We tested up towards the high of the range. We tested above 2250, didn't see enough buyers to come in here. So I would not be surprised if this is not more than a pullback and it goes to the other side of the range. Right. I got the stats from Creative Capitalist, so we'll pull that up in a second. And what trade is working out really well right now? I don't know. Oh, the Nikkei. Look at that. Give me a second. I'm going to try to get Creative Capitalist out up here. See this? So the one thing about this Nikkei trade, where our entry was a little bit away from this volume. So if I waited for a pullback, I could have, in my mind, eliminated about $300 of potential drawdown in this trade, right? Where I want my entries to be as close to volume as possible. We're going to leave it where it is. Um, but again, I would not be surprised a little bit of a pullback here, a pull up here. And again, we have this anchored VWAP from big news that is acting as somewhat of a support here. We're going to stay out until New York session. Yeah, you can see I'm trading these in combines again, just going over concepts. None of these are ever suggestions to get into a trade, but I'm not trading an account that matters right now. Give me 1 second. Let me try to get this screen up here. Oh, that's not what I want. I'm not saying that combines don't matter. I'm saying the combine that I'm trading is an ineligible combine. We have combines that are like coaches combines with that are not eligible for funding, and that's what I'm trading right now, right? Where I can make, you know, 6 grand on this account and it not be eligible to go to an XFA. So I'll use it during classes to go over concepts, but it doesn't matter in the sense that okay, gotcha, KB. All right, hold on. Let's see if we can get this up here. Let me size this correctly. Let's go above it. All right, here we go. For demonstration only, there we go. All right, so this is Creative Capitalist XFA. Looks like you started mid early September. Really nice win rate here, 89%. We don't see that often, especially over multiple trades. Over 5,500 in the account. Your losers are almost 2.5 times your winners, but that's okay because you have almost a 90% win rate. This is really nice. So scrolling down, it looks like you're a scalper, right? Where you're taking 15-second to a lot of your trades are under a minute. So quick in and outs. I like this little streak of winning trades. And even though you're taking quick trades, you might just be, seeing profit on and that's exactly what you're doing, right? So you're seeing profit. Almost looks like you have a 5 point target on your Nasdaq trades, and you're getting out, right? Five point profit target. You see two opportunities, you're taking it, and you're done for the day. Really nice. No losing days in this account, so this drawdown here is just you paying yourself. So great there. Um, this is really good. Not much to say here about this, where you've identified a setup that can give you 5 points, and you're taking that setup. Um, and it looks like you recently adjusted to that 5 point target, where some days you had some bigger moves. I'm trying to find when you decided 5 points was enough, and it looks like you're on the 26th is when you decided to start doing that. So this is really cool. This is not your XFA. So who was that? Oh, sorry. This is not yours. My bad. This is someone else's. Okay, I'll get to yours next. Well, whoever this is Kaka Prost. Um, keep doing this. This is amazing. Um, my, my bad. So if you guys have ever streamed and been on Discord, it does this thing where it kind of it shortens the name. So I just saw a C and I just clicked it. But yeah, shout out to you for this account because this is great. Um, when I learned how to trade, the guy Rich that I learned how to trade from, he would say, everyone's looking for these big moves, and we were trading stocks. You're looking for a stock to, to move $2 to make your money. Uh, we were kind of focused on identifying a 50-cent trade, and then when you wanted to pay yourself more, it's the 50-cent trade doesn't change, right? It has a specific setup that we could look for, and to a high probability, it's going to provide us 50% on the winners, 50 cents on the winners. And then if we wanted to scale up and make more, you just add more size, right? So that's what I see here, right? Where you have found something that gives you a repeatable 5-point trade. If you want to scale up into that, then you just add another contract and you go from there. Uh, oh, Stefan, that's you. NASDAQ can move 500 points in a day. I don't care. I want my slice of the cake. Exactly. Exactly. All right. So let's get the combine that we were supposed to be looking at up here. And here we go. Here's an XFA. Here's the right one from Creative Capitalist. Uh, again, started in September. Consistency, 78% win rate. You're definitely scalping micros. With this win rate, you can be profitable with your, average win loss looking this way. You're definitely scalping. Again, probably found a setup that can present uh, a specific amount of points to you, and you're just taking those points off the table. Yep. 48 of your trades under 15 seconds with a 97% win rate. So I wonder, are you going to break even on these, or is it presenting the exact amount of profit that you're looking for? Um, you're just stacking up small days here, which is fine, right? Eventually, in order to get to a payout, you're going to need to have a couple more of these, right? $200 days. But what size is this account? Uh, if you can put that in the chat, what size is this account? Because I don't hate this, right? Where a lot of times we have traders get into an XFA and try to 50K account. Okay, so a lot of times we have traders get into a 50K account and try to hit $200 days in the first 5 days, where there might be some more room here for you, right? Where yes, you are building brick by brick, but maybe we want to increase the size of the bricks a little bit, right? Uh, where this is consistent. I like the fact that you're taking, very minimal trades in the session. Uh, but what I don't want to happen is you build this account to $2,000 with only one eligible profitable day, and then in order for you to scale up and trade the size that you need to get to those profitable days, that changes your trading. Right, because and someone just said it in the chat, the one day that goes against this plan could blow this whole account, right? So if you're going to do this and continue to build it, you have to stick to this plan. I don't know what the balance is that you're looking for you to say, okay, let me start reaching for more, but eventually you have to do it, right? In order to pay yourself from this, because right now with uh, 26 profitable days, this account is still not eligible for a payout. So um, don't be afraid of loss. It's going to happen. We're not going to prevent it. And when I say loss, I've seen you take losses on trades. Don't be afraid of losses on days, right? Where it is almost impossible for anyone to have a 100% win rate on a daily basis. I won't reach for more until I hit over 2,500. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, right? That's in your plan. Don't get to the point where you get to that 2,500, start reaching for more, and then that changes your strategy, right? What you might have to do is just add another contract to whatever you're already doing. Right now, you're trading with one micro. You might have to trade 3 or 4 for this to start making sense, right? But this is really good from a consistency perspective. This is amazing, right? Where this is not easy to do, right? People might look at it and be like, "Oh, you're only making $20 a day." What Dilesh is doing, it's not easy to do because you have to have the personal discipline to say, "This is all I'm going to do in this account," and that's it, right? Where somebody might I might wake up one day and I'm just feeling impatient and this is just taking too damn long. And instead of doing this with micros, I'm going to do it with two minis. And then the whole plan gets thrown out the window. So Size, and Mr. Algo just said it, size up when appropriate. When you size up, be very conscious of if there are any changes to your kind of thought process with the trades, right? The trade should be exactly the same as what you're already seeing. How much in fees is he paying? Not a whole lot because you're not trading a lot, right? And there's no commissions on TopstepX, so not a whole lot of trading. How do traders get on your lunatics group? Right now, VIPs are closed. They are going to be opening up VIPs. We're going to have two new coaches with VIP teams. Um, so opportunities for VIPs will be announced on Topstep TV whenever we decide to do that. Right. Um, is this something I could eventually take to live, or will it take me years at this pace? I used to size up, but I lost accounts that way. So when you say you used to size up, what how much were you sizing up, right? Because if you're going from doing this to trading one mini, you're 10xing your size. That's too much, right? But if you're adding a contract, you're doubling your size, right? That's a reasonable size up because still with two minis, you could do this with two minis, I think, and be reasonable. Um, I would look to try to get to 5 micros, right? I would try to look to scale to 5, which is not a whole lot, but you're gonna have to get comfortable, and you're doing it. You're building the account. You're going to have to get comfortable seeing bigger numbers on the screen, right? And it's not a huge number, but you're gonna have to get comfortable doing it. And if you're not comfortable yet, that's fine. Like I said earlier, you might not be in a place in your trading where you're thinking about the money yet. You're thinking about how do I develop a repeatable process, and that's what you're doing. Don't let anyone tell you that this is wrong to do. It's wrong to do if you're still doing this 5 years from now, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Um, let's see. Do we got markets moving around at all? Let me get back to my market screen. Nope. Oh, let's look at the markets real quick. Again, doing a little quick scan here, see if anything is moving. Bitcoin kind of slowed down. But this is not a trade idea that I'm going to leave because I've seen Bitcoin trend so many times. I'm looking for a pullback to this VWAP to potentially get into a Bitcoin trade here. Yeah, I'm actually going to put this one on, this XFA. I'm going to try to get into two. Do this first, take these brackets off of here. Get into three at 50% of this range. And I'm going to risk the new lows on the day. And this is probably $150, $180 worth of risk. I'm going to leave that on. And again, anything we talk about for educational purposes only, not suggestions to take a trade, but I'm going to try to set this one up. Right. But good stuff with those trade reports. I'll scan to see if there are any others. Again, really nice consistency on both of those, right? Where, again, I don't think there was a losing day on either one of those accounts. And those strategies are pretty simple, right? You found a scalp that you can take every day. The first account that we looked at had a $6,000 balance after a payout with taking about one or two trades a day over the course of a month. We don't have to sit here and trade all day, right? That person is trading for, and again, you developed a process, and I think that was Steven. You developed a process where you could, uh, I don't know what your trading times are like, but that could be a half hour day or less. Two payouts, very nice, very nice. Um, all right, we'll get to one more report. Got one more in the chat here. We'll get to one more. Um, It's like $11,000 in a combine. All right, so I'm gonna go to the combine. I'm not gonna do the practice account. FX Freedom, this is you. So this will be the last one we do. All right, so this is what's going on here. Let's see. So first thing I see is this is $11,000 in a combine. Maybe you're just using this as a practice account. Um, 50% win rate, 1 to 1 on your trades. Mm, so there's a big loss in here somewhere. No, I'm looking at this. I don't know what the goal of this is. Uh, the, what the goal of this account would be, right? And I'm not even trying to like be an ass. I don't know, right? Because it doesn't look like you're preparing to trade a Topstep account where you are identifying good setups, right? So that's good. You identified a setup, you left the trade on. Um, but then here, I see a day like this. And this I don't is this an eligible combine? Right? So like you like things like this, if this is an eligible combine, and you're saying what can I learn from this? One thing to learn is you can't do this. Right? You're up $5,000 on this account. If this is practice, this is bad practice, right? Where this should not happen. 674 trades on this day. This should not happen. Right? So I would just say if you're going to practice, make it effective practice. Um, I don't know what the plan is for this, but try to center your practice around effectiveness. Right? I'll just use an example. Like I said, I coached basketball for 12 years. There were times where we had practices where it was just like, okay, let's see who could shoot uh, and hit a shot from half court first. Right? That was just to kind of get away from some of the pressure that was, consistently trying to improve as a team. That was probably once every 2 months that we would do that drill, right? So we didn't do it all the time because how often are we actually going to use half court shots in our games, right? So if you want to have a day like this where you just say, "Hey, I need a low pressure situation," and you want to do this every once in a while, sure. But this looks like you're getting all of the want to click a button urge out on this account, and better to do it here than an account that matters. But outside of that, I don't know what the plan of that will be. Uh, Right. So if there is a plan from there, let me know. But that's what I see. All right. So I'm gonna go back to the markets. Let me make sure I get rid of the right screen. All right. Mr. Dev, you say missed coaching opportunity there. What was the coaching opportunity? Let me know if I missed something. Let me know. I think I suggested, you know, effective practice. Start trading a contract size that makes sense. I missed the sizing. I'm seeing 15 contract trades. I'm seeing I'm seeing 15 contract trades, right? Where that sizing, uh, I don't, I have not seen that be uh, effective for many people. Right. And that kind of goes into the whole. This may not be uh, sustainable for a Top Step account. All right, so this is okay. Try not to do this too much. Um, And there's is there news? Is there something moving right now? Let's see. Right back to the lows of the range, right? Anyone here surprised? But this got a little violent, it looks like. If someone sees news, let me know. We got about 10 minutes left. But right back to the right back to the we talked about this, right? Maybe you should have stopped talking and just started trading it, but not surprised here. Uh, Gold is dumping. Wow. Yeah, it is. Something must have just come out. Yeah, that just happened really quick, right? These are 3-minute candles, so this just happened in the last 6 minutes. Let's see. Let's see if this is sustainable because this do we have this shorter time frame support here where we kind of bounce off of 2663. Let's see if this is sustainable or if we get a little excuse me, a little bit of a bounce and continuation of this move. Right. I definitely, if I'm gonna join whatever this momentum is, I definitely don't want to be getting short here because I see potential for a pullback at least to this range. Mm. For New York, I'd use the 30-minute range from the session open, but when we get into New York trading hours, I go down to a 3-minute opening range. Yeah, so that Japan 10-year news was I saw that on financial news too, but we had talked about that almost a half an hour ago now, and there wasn't a reaction to it unless, the reaction was that late. Uh, this volume came in though at 9:45 Eastern time, which feels like it's a planned release, right? I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing a headline, but when I see things happen like on those times, it feels like there was probably something that we're just not paying attention to or not seeing yet. Yeah, I agree with you, Epic Gamer. Be careful doing anything here. I don't see what even caused this move. So I'm just gonna be patient. I would be looking for somewhat of a pull up here if we're gonna get continuation, but I also don't, like I said before, I don't want to be short gold for a long time. This might be the move that we talked about for the, potential push into 2650s before a bounce. But again, if I go with what my playbook says, 30-minute opening range, price left the range, volume didn't. I would not be surprised at a pullback back into this range up to 2670. So no trade there. The only trade that I'm still leaving on potentially is this Bitcoin trade, which it looks like we're potentially going to start accepting back into this range. Right. But we got 5 minutes left. If you do have any other questions, please send them in. Andrew, shout out to you as always for sending those over. Thank you for that. But if not, we'll end it in 5 minutes. Hopefully, everybody has a good rest of their night. Yen looking good. Like this pattern in the end. It looks like it wants to hold up a little bit and maybe can get a second push. Um, this VWAP though has not left this range. I would not be surprised at a pullback. How are you attaching the volume to that range? Just the anchored VWAP tool and just clicking on the first candle of the range. NQ just dumped. Something's going on. Yeah, see, but back to the bottom of the range. Um, Bounced right off of 200 again. volatility is picking up a little bit where there is volume coming in, but we saw some volume earlier as well, right? And they were not able to push price lower. I'm decide if I want to take a couple micros here. It's not a whole lot of risk. No, this is not the way to measure risk, but I'm gonna see. Took 2 micros here and set my risk here, $60. Yeah, I could do that. I like that trade. I'm just gonna get into that now. Buying two, gonna risk these lows, and my target is going to be back up to 20,049. Why am I not setting it at the exact high of the range? Because 20,050 could be a rejection area, right? It's a whole number, and I don't want to try to leave that trade on. So I'm just going to take this as it is. Now, if I'm reading volume here, I want this to claim back over this candle because we did get some selling in here. So this 20,020 could be a rejection level as well. But again, this trade is based on 30-minute range, volume being flat. So I'll go with the odds on this. And this is about a 2-to-1 trade if it does work out. Right? Any other questions? One of these trades that we took in this account is working out really nicely. I don't think it's the yen. I think it's the Nikkei trade. Yeah. But you see where the Nikkei is bouncing still? Right off of that moving average from NFP. It's a $200 trade, and it was up more than that at one point. And then the yen trade, let's check on that one. This one looks really nice too, right? We didn't get the A plus setup, volume leaving the range, but it looked like it was, remember we said two-ish, where it looked like it wanted to leave the range. Again, wouldn't be surprised at a pullback, but now that I have this trade already in the profit, I'm not going to let it get back under this consolidation and turn into a loser. Worst case, I take $25 out of that trade. All right. We got 3 minutes. Any other questions? Somebody says look left. Big-headed astronaut. I like that name. Appreciate your 30-minute range and anchor VWAP strat was able to make $400 in your XFA. Nice. I love when, you know, and again, we don't know anything. Nothing's 100%. And like I said, this trade may just get rejected because we see selling coming in here. But I like when, even for myself, I identify a strategy. Maybe I don't put it to risk with real capital right away, but implementing strategies right away, right, guys? If I tell you that I look at the markets a certain way, you may take that strategy and develop it into something completely different, right? And see something completely different than I do, right? So anytime you hear anybody, you know, uh, giving you an idea of how they look at the markets, I think about it like our teachers used to say in school, right? Put this in your own words, right? How can you define it for yourself and make it your own thing? And in that way, you feel more confident in it. But I think that is it for me. Remember, Deanna has the London session starting at 3:30 a.m. Central Time, mm, Monday through Thursday. So Deanna is going to be the next person up on Topstep TV, and then of course we have the daytime show during the day. And Coach Paul and I do at the buzzer every day after the close, just to kind of recap the markets, see what happened for the day. We do a lot of the same, strategy talk that we just talked about here. So if you haven't watched that segment already, definitely do that. Hit the like button before you leave. Thank Andrew for sending all your questions over to me. We can't do these sessions without you, Andrew. Um, and if you want to trade on Topstep TV and you want to be the next trader to do it, fill out this form here and you can get on TopStep TV to trade. The team is going to look at all these submissions and maybe you're the next one to trade on TopStep, right? Either in an XFA, combine, pass your combine with some of the on-air talent. If you want that to be you, got to fill out that form. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great rest of your night, and we will see you all tomorrow. Have a good night.